Mr. Jewett,
And I'm Mr. Decker.
and we're here to talk to you about more about World War II.
Yep, it never ends. World War II is probably the longest unit of seventh grade for a reason. There's just so much to unpack that it's hard to do justice in a short amount of time, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, there's literally different sections of this that are entire semesters in high school.
I've taken college classes on different theaters of the war or just different aspects of it. So we're going to do our best.
Yeah, plug along, let's do it.
All right, so we are jumping ahead a few years from Pearl Harbor and getting into the war in Europe and the official U.S. Invasion of mainland Europe, I guess I would call it.
Yeah, and if you remember from a few videos ago, we mentioned that Germany had control of France. The French didn't really put up a great fight, and Germany just kind of rolled on through France just like they did Poland. And as a result, they've been bombing England from France. They've been going across the English Channel and bombing England and its major cities. And as a result, when the United States joined, they wanted to help Britain defend its shores and then also attack from Britain back into France.
Yeah, I don't know what the gas mileage is for a bomber in the 1940s, but if the distance from France to England over the Channel is only 8 miles, I'm assuming you don't need that much gas and oil to get bombs there and back multiple times a day.
No, definitely not.
So the U.S. we like to help our friends
Yes, we do sometimes.
sometimes, and to some extent, we were just tired of hearing the remainder of the French government hiding in exile in Africa, begging for us helping them return the mainland to their control. So we said, you know what? Fine. We need to get into Europe anyway. What if we committed the largest amphibious military assault in history?
Yeah, and what amphibious means is frogs are amphibious. It means you go from land to water or water to land or whichever way. And this massive invasion was called Operation Overlord.
Yep. We it's difficult to really capture the scope of this idea, but basically all the major European powers on the western side, because the Soviets were busy just putting Germany through the meat grinder in the east. Um, Basically, we looked at the beaches of Normandy in France, which wasn't the closest point from England to France, but we did that on purpose, the whole deception thing. And the U.S., the U.K., and Canada had a set, each had beaches, and we brought the full might of the United States military to bear against the German defenses on Normandy.
Yeah, it was very smart actually not to attack the nearest point from Britain to France across that 8 mile stretch. We actually faked an invasion. We had ships that just had, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but just cutouts of people to make it look like they were staging a massive invasion, um, to really make the Germans focus on one aspect of their defense. Meanwhile, the actual troops went a little further south and set up for an invasion there.
Yeah, Eisenhower and George C. Marshall actually told General Patton, who was like the blood and guts most popular general in the U.S. military, and they put him in charge of a fake army with like blow up fake tanks and put him near the Pas de Calais so that the Germans would think like they would never send Patton anywhere except the place they were planning to invade from. So the Germans, although they were prepared to defend Normandy, were much more prepared to defend the Pas de Calais.
And with that, you have, once the United States and the Canadians and the British actually do attack a little bit further south, it is some of the just goriest fighting imaginable.
Yes. Heavy. The Germans were dug in, and I mean that first wave of boats. If you were the first person off the boat, your odds of survival were very, very low. You were hopping off an amphibious boat into 3 feet of water, under machine gun fire.
and then trying to run up a beach. Have you ever tried to run in sand? It's not fun.
No.
And then you have all your equipment, your firearms, everything else. Very little cover. It's almost impossible.
But impossible is not a word in the United States military's dictionary.
It is not, thankfully.
So, June 6, 1944, we begin the invasion, and by the end of the day, we have pretty much claimed that section of France and prepared to continue moving through Normandy into the rest of France.
Yeah, and we had paratroopers drop in behind the lines and kind of clear out bridges and stuff like that as well. So it was a massive invasion.
Yep.
Very successful for the Allies.
And next thing you know, 2 months later, we've gone through France and we're knocking on the doors of Germany. So,
Indeed.
things going well. Meanwhile, in Southern Europe and Africa, we also have to knock some Germans out of there too. Just Nazis everywhere we look.
Yeah, and the main thing there is you have the Soviets from the east attacking, you have the British, the Canadians, and the United States, and whatever French soldiers they can muster, not many, they're coming from the west. You are now trying to make it a three-front battle where you have the Allies also attacking from what was called the soft underbelly, up from Africa through the Mediterranean and through Italy.
Yeah, the Italian army is not good. That's kind of a mean way to put it, but when you compare the Italians to the Germans, it's not really comparable. That's why a lot of people, they thought of Mussolini as a very weak leader, that, not somebody that could feasibly stand up to a determined military assault, and they were right.
Yeah, it wasn't until you get to the northern part of Italy that it was true. It was difficult to get there, but it wasn't like Operation Overlord or D-Day.
No, and it gets more difficult the further north you go because northern Italy is very mountainous. There's lots of snow, lots of mud, so it's going to be difficult to go through anyway. But yeah, the Italian campaign, the soft underbelly, did what it was supposed to because it diverted German military forces away from France and into Italy, being forced to defend its ally.
Yep, and on top of kind of diverting those German troops, you also have a lot of strategic land through there. If you can control the Mediterranean Sea, for example, you have the Suez Canal, which is going to help with transporting oil from the Middle East to really anywhere you need it, whether it's Britain or Africa or the United States, wherever. And also from those islands off the coast of Italy, the United States can also stage bombing runs with their planes and attack German oil fields and their trains to cut off their supplies as well.
Yep. It's the theme of both world wars is that Germany relies on supplies from other places in the world to kind of fund and fuel its war machine. So by cutting off the Mediterranean and its resources from other parts like the Middle East, Germany is just going on borrowed time.
And that was the strategy. We're going to put pressure from three different fronts, cut off their supply line, and just kind of outlast them. It becomes a war of what's called attrition. You try to outlast the other side.
Yep. So I think that's all we really need to say about this.
Cool. In that case, I'm Mr. Jewett.
And I'm Mr. Decker. We'll be back next week with, I believe it's the end of the war in Europe and the atomic bombings. Have a good one.
All right, we'll see you then. Bye, kids.